Welcome, everybody, to today's session of Holistic Conversations. This is our first session in 2025, so Happy New Year, everybody. Yes, and this is Holistic Conversations. Today, we'll be talking about what really is ours. What really is ours. You can see me trying to look elsewhere. I have people from TikTok on here listening, so I'm just kind of looking at two different places. But there is something that inspired the topic for today. What really is ours? You see, it's a conversation I was having with some people. It started with the calendar. Somebody said Happy New Year, and I said same to you. And then I also said, do you know that this is not supposed to be the actual beginning of the year? If you were to go by the calendar, or if you have to go by nature, how nature works, that the year starts when the flowers are beginning to blossom again, you know, which is sometime around March ending April, and also with the spring equinox, right? So it's all of these things as are meant to be traced with the movement of the stars, the movement of the sun and of the earth, really, of course, and the moon, because that's why we have moons, because the moon means moon, right? So I said this is not meant to be, that January, this is like the dead of winter, and everything, nature is basically hibernating, nature is basically sleeping. So how can you say that this is the beginning of the year? And this is really not the beginning of the year, if not for the who introduced the Gregorian calendar and, added a few months, the month of January, the month of July, the month of August, and so on and so forth, changed the whole thing. And here we are today. But the intriguing thing about the conversation is what some other person said. Some other person said, why do we need to go back in history to find out when or why the calendar was changed? What's important about that? Okay. And then, first of all, there are so many reasons why we should go back. History, to know what happened. Why are we where we are today? You see, a lot of people don't like to question things. Thank you all for joining the live on TikTok. And if you'd like to join in, the conversation in the next 30 minutes, I'll be opening up. Sorry, in the next 25 minutes, I'll be opening up the chat here on TikTok. Okay, so what really is ours? Like I said, what struck up this conversation was the calendar, right? How did we get to the calendar we are using today? Ethiopia has a different calendar. They have a different New Year. The Chinese have a different New Year. And this is holistic conversations where we mainly try to talk about issues that affect basically Africans. Now, the question is, what is the actual African calendar? What is ours as Africans? What is ours as Nigerians? You see? And we'll be talking about different things today. We'll talk about language, talk about education, we'll talk about fashion, we'll talk about economy, tradition, immigration, we'll talk about innovation, and then we'll talk about religion, right? How do all of these things affect our lives, and are any of these things ours? So please, if you're here, do like and invite your friends, share the space so that people can join in and learn. Thank you. So let's start with language, right? I'm speaking English at the moment. But am I English? No, not English. I'm Igbo, right? I'm an Igbo man from Eastern Nigeria, and my language is Igbo. So I'm supposed to be speaking Igbo, and I'm supposed to be from a country called maybe Igbo Nation or something of that nature. The same way the English come from England, and the man who speaks Russian comes from Russia, and the man who speaks Chinese comes from China, and the man who speaks German comes from Germany. I should speak Igbo and come from Igbo land, Alibo. But what happened? Why am I speaking English today? Why am I having to communicate in English to my kith and kin, my fellow Igbos? Why is that? You see, that's the situation. What really is ours? Is my language mine? Is my identity really mine? Am I really expressing myself right now? Because somebody who possibly knows the English language more than I do could come and tell me you're not really saying what you mean to say because you're not using the words right. And who am I to argue when it's not my language, you see? But the point is colonization, imperialism, and all of these things influenced our culture. And this influence that colonization and imperialism had on my culture was not to the benefit of my people. It was for an economic benefit of the colonizer. In fact, if he needed me to be cheap labor, it was only necessary that he taught me a bit of his language so that he can at least give me instructions so that I can carry out those instructions as his cheap labor, right? So I was not taught the English language as an act of civilization. It was an act of conditioning, brainwashing, and you know, I don't even know what word to use to classify it. So then today I express myself in English. Some other Africans express themselves in French. Some other Africans express themselves in Portuguese. Some other Africans, speak Arabic. Now the question is, what really is ours? What then is our language as Africans? Because we do not seem to be going about, you know, how would I put it? Hardly have I seen an African indigenous nation going about Africa or any other part of the world to try to enforce their language on the people. This has hardly ever happened. So the question then becomes, why are foreign languages being imposed on Africans? And what are Africans really doing about it? What are we really doing about having to speak our language? You see, I'm somebody who grew up in Igbo land. In my school, it was the Igbo language was considered vernacular, right? So you speak your language, your indigenous language in your indigenous land, and you have to pay a fine for doing that. This is in the educational system. This is, in the educational system. How is that not called indoctrination? But then let's quickly go over to education, because, like we said, we're talking about what really is ours. Who sets my educational curriculum? Who, of course, who puts together this curriculum? Who says this is what I need to know and when I need to know it? Is it my people? And it doesn't matter where you come from, the question is the same. Who sets your educational curriculum? Who sets who dictates what you should learn and what you shouldn't learn? If it's your people doing this, then that's a different playing field. That the conversation takes a different turn from there. But if it's not your people, then the question is, why shouldn't it be your people? Or why is it not your people? So I'm using myself as an example. For instance, I'm Nigerian, and in the Nigerian educational system, you find that they're teaching us a lot about the English history. They're teaching us a lot about Roman history. They're teaching us about Western inventions and innovations and stuff like that. And then the question then becomes, well, who's going to teach me about mine? Did my people not have a history what's being taught in the educational system? Did my people not contribute anything to medicine, to science, to arts? Did my own people, my own ancestors, not create a language system, a writing system, and a mathematical system? So why am I being taught about the achievements of Westerners, of Europeans and Arabs and all of that? There is a problem here. And then you get to find out that it is not my own people setting this educational curriculum for us to study about other people. It is because in all these things, we need to find out the foundation, how it all started. Don't forget, why we are talking about all of these things is the importance of history. What's the need in going back to understand what has happened and why we are where we are today? It's very important because for this person to say to me, what's your business in history? Yes, the calendar was changed at some point, and now everybody is using this calendar. If you want to, create a different calendar, why don't you go ahead and create it and use it? But when that word was said to me, it wasn't said as a means of saying, as an empowering statement. It was more or less like more of it there, or to say, if you don't want to use the regular calendar, well, go create yours. But the point is, yes, we could create ours. It's not just about why should we use the Gregorian calendar in the first place? How did we come to use it in the first place? Now, these are not the problems some people, or these are not the things some people may be thinking, when they are going through their day-to-day life. They're like, I've got a lot of problems and to worry about the calendar, yeah? But this is just an entry point into the conversation of how important our history is to us. It's not necessarily about the calendar. It's not necessarily about, just an argument. It's about discussing what is the importance of knowledge of self. What's the importance of knowing yourself as an individual, knowing the history of your community where you do live in, you know, knowing how things got to where they are and understanding where things are going from where they are, because this is how evolution happens. This is how development happens. You see, you can't come and build a house without a foundation. You've got to go down, to the foundation and build it all the way up. So if you want to build your civilization on the surface level without a foundation, then that civilization is bound to you know, crumble. So, like I've said, educational system, us as Nigerians, wasn't set by us as Nigerians. It was set by the English, right? So then, when are Africans, when are Nigerians going to start setting their own academic or educational curriculum? When are they going to start teaching subjects like physics, chemistry, mathematics in different indigenous languages and not the colonizer's language? You see, because if I don't speak the English language, then my content would possibly have a limited reach or limited view, especially among my own people who I want to learn this or get this information, you see. So therefore, I'm forced to speak the language. But if it were to be a government effort to try to promote an indigenous language for communication, then more people will key into it. So that's just the point of it. The next thing I want to talk about again is our fashion, right? Of course, we are beginning to have that sense of awareness, and we are beginning to see a lot of African fashion hit the front stage. A lot of superstars, especially in America, who are beginning to trace their roots to Africa, are beginning to wear African fashion wears, on the big screen and mainstream media and all of that, and it's beginning to go out there. Okay. But if you were to come down to Africa and go into the corporate buildings, where people work from Monday to Friday, and you see their dress code, you'll be wondering, is this an African dress code? Is this the African working class dress code? Okay. People would say that, for example, if you're a banker, you wear your shirt and your tie, and all of that. You wear your suit, possibly from Monday to Friday, Monday to Thursday, and on Friday you wear your African native attire because you say it's close to the weekend, you can begin to loosen up. So what's that thing about wearing Western fashion on other work days in the name of being uptight and corporate? Are we trying to say that our African attires are not corporate attires? So what are they really? You see, that's the point. Why can't a bank manager be seen dressed in his native attire from Monday to Friday just to uphold his identity as an individual without any external influence, without any external cultural influence? You see, but you find out that the bank managers have to wear suits all week to represent the institution that created to represent the organization or the institution that created the banking system, and that also to also represent the people that control the banking system. Because yet again, it's Africa and it's Nigeria in charge of its banking system. Is it in charge of its financial economic system? That's a problem. If it is under the influence of imperialism, if it is under the influence of Western interests, like somebody put it recently, if the Nigerian economy and the financial system is under the control of the global oligarchs, then it is no surprise that the bank managers have to dress in a fashion that will reflect the ideals and the standard of the colonizer and the imperialists, thereby wearing suits. What really is ours? What really is ours? You see, is our fashion ours? Is our education ours? Is our language ours? And if it is not, what are we doing about it? You see? And I just quickly talked about the economy, right? Talking about people who control the financial system, the banking system, people who say your money is tied to our money. And we tell you when your money would go up and when your money will go down. We set the pace. I mean, some people, I'm trying to be a little bit, I'm trying to filter the information a little bit, right? So it doesn't come out too strong. But the point is this. For example, we have the French speaking countries in Africa. We heard that most of them do their banking and the minting of their money in France. They also pay a lot of huge revenues to France. And some people call it the tax for the continuation of colonization. Some people call it different things, right? But the point is, France controls the money system and the money value chain of the French-speaking African countries. And why do we have French-speaking African countries? Because these countries were colonized by the French. Now, we all talk about colonization and French-speaking country like it was just a normal thing in history. It was meant to happen. In fact, it's going to happen again and it will keep happening. Like it's not a crime against humanity. So people, we do need to start understanding that colonial masters are criminals. And people who are involved in colonization, slavery, and imperialism, we are all or are all involved in huge crimes against humanity. If not anything, should be made to pay reparations and compensations for the effects of their current crimes on the people. You see. So coming to the economy, who controls the economy of Africa? Why would an African country maybe create certain laws that would empower its own people, and as a result of that, that country will start facing sanctions from the West, economic sanctions from the West? What is the West trying to say when they give African countries economic sanctions for trying to develop themselves? They're trying to say that we are going to strangle your economy because you can't survive without us. So is that right? Can African governments, can the African markets, can the African economy really not survive with the economy of the West? Let's take a little dive into this. So what makes an economy viable? What makes your economy viable? You have human resources, you have natural resources, and then the means of manufacturing and producing these natural resources into finished products and creating a market chain system where you can add value to these things, buy and sell and exchange. Yeah. So Africa, we've got the population in terms of human resources, in terms of customer base for people who would consume, the consumers in the market. We've got the consumer population. We've also got the natural resources that need to be transformed into certain finished products. And if you compare all the natural resources Africa has got for itself, if they were to just be manufactured in Africa and sold within Africa from country to country, I bet you that we wouldn't need the Western economy to validate or give value to our funds, our currencies, or to our products. But you find out that, for example, like most of the African governments have their political officers using cars that are imported from the Western world. That means you don't have car manufacturing in your country. You don't even have car assembling in your country. But you export almost all the materials used to create a car, from this. You export most of these materials to the other countries. And you're like, why export these materials when you can as well create them and control the market? You see? Now, no African country sets the price of a Rolls Royce. No African country sets the price of any Mercedes, right? It's the people who manufacture it that set their price. But if you, as an African government or populace, are all about consuming these products, then you're dependent on whatever prices they set. And when you import these things into your country, because in Africa we are huge importers, right? So you import everything. By the time you import all of these things at whatever prices they have set it, for you to make a profit, you have to add some more money to it to sell to your own people. So you find out that the prices of the goods in your market are basically being set by foreigners. Who really runs your economy? Prices of many things in our market are set by foreigners. So then if we had a standardization company in Nigeria, for example, that is meant to set the price of certain goods, how can such a company be effective when the country is a huge importer and not a huge manufacturer of the goods that the people consume? So yeah, it's tricky. So that's why, today's topic is more of a reflective topic. What really is ours? What really is ours? Because we have an illusion that this economy is ours, this language is ours, this calendar is ours, this fashion. Okay, let's talking about the calendar once again. We could talk about the festivities we celebrate in a year. So a lot of us as Africans, a lot of us as Nigerians, we're already getting ready to celebrate Valentine's Day in February, right? And once we're done with that, then, those of us who are Christians will start getting ready to celebrate Easter, and those who are Muslims will start going into their fasting to celebrate theirs and all of that. And once we're all done with that around April, May period, then the next thing we all heading into, looking towards December again, for Christmas. Some people have certain celebrations that come up around August. Fine. Now the question is, of all the public holidays we observe through the year, of all the, festivals that we uphold and get involved in, which of them is really ours? Africans, as Nigerians. Because the question is, if none of them is yours, why are you participating without contributing yours to the system? You see, because I'm not against any African celebrating Halloween. No. But if you're celebrating Halloween because the people who own Halloween promoted theirs, promoted their culture and their practice, and you're happy to join, why not promote yours? Why not promote yours as well? Because they might be happy to practice yours and join. It's all festivities, isn't it? And you find out that the problem is we look down on that which is ours. So talking about language, I said I speak Igbo. So now there are so many Igbo people who have been so westernized that they feel it is a rich thing, that it gives you some kind of rich status to say I can't speak Igbo. They're like, yeah, I'm Igbo, but I don't know how to speak it. No. And then they try to say this thing with the mentality that, if you can speak the English language better, then you're more sophisticated, you're more civilized, you're well educated and more exposed and all of that. That all equates to, living the good life. That's bad, because we are not promoting that which is ours. We are not promoting our own calendar, our own festivals, our own holidays. Okay, so we as the Igbos, we celebrate the New Year festival every August, right? And yeah, how many times do we have a public holiday for a New Yam festival that is indigenous to us as Igbos? I've never seen a public holiday. If the New Yam festival falls on a Monday, everyone is going to work, right? Maybe they celebrate the weekend before or the weekend after. If the New Yam festival falls on a Sunday, they're all going to church. Doesn't matter if, Jesus believes in the New Yam or not. So then the problem is this: why are we not celebrating ours, but we are very happy and quick to celebrate that of other people, not thinking about our own? Okay, it's all right if a Chinese man were to say to you today, next week is my New Year. Next week comes, you say to him, hi, Chinaman, Happy New Year. You uphold that, you respect him for who he says he is, his identity. If the Ethiopian comes and says, yesterday was my New Year, you respect that. But the problem is, why take everything handed down to you that is not indigenous to you? Why not think about innovating and having yours? I can see a lot of people joining up on TikTok. Like I said, I'll be opening up the space to have you all contribute, shortly. But yeah, just in case you don't know, this is Holistic Conversation session where we talk about different issues that affect us as humans, especially us as Africans. And like the name of the session goes, holistic conversations. We don't try to look at things from a one-sided point of view. We try to make it balanced. We try to make it holistic. And like I said, today we're talking about what really is ours. And that especially is talking about things that we've just been born to see in the society. They were there, maybe, we grew up we were born into a Christian home or into a Muslim home, or you were born speaking French, but you're Congolese, or you were born speaking Portuguese, but you're from Zimbabwe, and you don't just know how it all started, right? So that's the point of discussing what really is ours. Like, if what I'm doing right now is not mine, what then is mine? If the language I'm speaking is not mine, what am I doing about the language what am I doing about my own language? If the culture I'm upholding or practicing is not mine, then where is my culture? What am I doing about it? If my culture is extinct, how did it go extinct? Because we do need to have this knowledge of ourselves. We do need to have this knowledge of our communities. We do need to have this knowledge, because someone said to me, medically, if you're not able to remember yourself or your family members or your friends or anything that you're meant to know, that you would be said to have a medical condition bordering along the lines of mental health issues, right? It could be that there are so many words, so many levels to it. If somebody today were to remember his name, and by tomorrow he doesn't know his name anymore, he doesn't know his family members anymore, you know and his wife or daughter is like, daddy, this is me, and he's like, I don't know you. That's a medical condition. So same applies to our culture. If you knew your culture today and tomorrow you don't know your culture anymore, something is really going on. You shouldn't take that lightly. If you could speak your language yesterday and today you can't speak your language no more, something is going on. You can't just smile and say, yeah, let's move on. Move on to what, right? And some people just take it so lightly that, yeah, we as humans exist, but there are some other humans who determine what every other person must do, whether they like it or not. And you just take that? We can't just take that. So coming to our tradition, is our tradition really ours? I don't know if I'm able to make that quite clear, but the point is this, right? We are now beginning to mix Western cultures or Western influences into our culture, right? Which in some way creates a different thing altogether. For example, in the Igbo cosmological concept, when we call Chukwu being the creator, we are talking about the totality of the universe and the force that is the totality of the universe, the totality of existence, in all of existence, right? Now that's Chukwu, the great Chi, okay? But then Christianity then says that the creator of the universe is God, and God is the father of Jesus, for example, and he also sent his spirit to get Mary pregnant. So I'm giving an example here, right? So now you have a system of education that calls God a man, or tries to personify God as a man whose spirit got another woman pregnant, who then gave birth to his son. And there on the other side, you have an indigenous knowledge system that sees what this other one tries to call God as the totality of existence. It is not personified into male or female. Rather, we could say it has feminine energies and masculine energies in terms of the reproductive capacity of the earth. We could say the earth is feminine. You could say the water is feminine just because it gives birth to life, because our mothers give birth to life, So in that analogy, you can just ascribe that energy to it. But we cannot say that the creator is man. So to an Igbo person, Chukwu is not a man or a woman, is the totality of existence. But now, an Igbo Christian calls Chukwu God. Do you see the religious dissonance there? So as an Igbo Christian, if you want to pray in your language, you're giving thanks to Chukwu, by going to the church to give offerings to Rome and thanking the universe by sending offerings that will be sent to the Roman religious government. I mean, does that really make sense? Because how did the Igbos get Christianized in the first place? And how did the offerings of the Igbo Christians, end up in the Roman coffers, in the Vatican? It's all through the activities of the missionary and all through the activities of colonization. Now, a lot of people give the argument that the missionaries and the Westerners brought civilization, brought education, brought exposure. These guys brought this religion to us, but this religion that they brought to us came with an economic gain for the countries that sent them to us. You see? So you now find out that, after the Christianization of the Africans, then the Africans started doing what is called offerings. You started putting together your offerings. It's either farm products or your gold coin or any kind of thing you've got. And these things are put together and sent to the head of the church, the source of the church, the source of these missionaries, the West. Before these people came in, all of these resources circulated within our land. So now what really is ours? When we say we are in our religious, are we really in our religious spaces? Or are we in a religious space that creates economic wealth for a different country, who is either your political imperialist or your religious imperialist? Another thing I want us to talk about again is immigration, right? And it's funny how I'm talking about what really is ours and we're talking about immigration. Because immigration is a huge topic. People are saying, why are these Africans coming all over to our countries and doing all of this and all of that? Yeah, you can say that. On the other hand, some Africans are saying, man, I've got to leave Africa for a better life. I've got to travel out. This place is so hard. This place is so hard. I've got to go out there. First of all, what is the first catch to an African who wants to travel abroad? He looks at the money exchange rate. He says, man, the dollar is far more bigger than the naira. The pounds, the euro is far more bigger than the naira. So if I'm able to travel out and make this money, then I'll be rich, even maybe when I come back and all of that. The question then is, what makes the dollar and the pounds bigger than the naira? Now you're now stepping back into the world of economics and who controls the economy. Now you find out that the same power that controls the value of the naira is the same power that is controlling the routes of immigration and the reasons for immigration. So if you're migrating out of your country because of political instability, because of economic instability, or because of warfare, just know that you're not just traveling because you're looking for greener pasture. You're just reacting to a design that has already been set. You're just doing a predicted response, right? Let's make this place uncomfortable for them, and those with little means would want to move over to this place. Simple and short, you see. So Western countries are in the business of destabilizing developing countries. Or, well, you can also say that Western countries are in the business, or Western governments are in the business of underdeveloping certain countries so that there will be high migration rate from those countries into the seemingly stable economies. And when these people migrate into these economies, what do they become in this new economy? They become cheap workforce. They become, if you've not got documents, you're one of the cheapest labor for labor. If you've got documents, then you've got to face certain institutional racism that would suppress you and keep you at certain levels. You've got to really be smart to break through. So you find out that even immigration system and the need to migrate is not even ours, because it's not like we as Africans are having so much fun in Africa and then we're like, I just want to travel the world. I have nothing else to do. Let me travel around. That way you will know it's you just wanting to move from one better place to who knows, to the best place. But now you're looking at your place as bad, as rough, as tough. and all of this toughness and badness and political instability in your place that you're trying to leave or run away from, all of those things are by design. They're all by design. It's all kept like that intentionally by someone. So the question is, what really is ours? In terms of immigration, is it really ours? Is it really our personal intent? To travel around. If families were given the choice, I know families that, you would say families of 5 children, one in Russia, one in America, one in Germany, one in France, and 10 years, 15 years go by, siblings haven't seen each other, one, it's all terrible. Why is one in France? Because that's the people that gave him papers. Why is the other one in England? Because that's he got rejected by American embassy. Why is the other one in just like that? So you're where you are by circumstances, by situation, and not by choice. You see, and if families had the choice, would families not want to be together, be scattered around the world? If some families had the choice, if Nigeria were to be a thriving economic place, if there were to be high level of security, love, and indigenous ingenuity going on in Nigeria, do you not think that there will be more Nigerians in the country than those living? Recently, somebody said that all of our best doctors in Nigeria and indeed most of Black Africa are leaving to the West. Why? Basically because the West pays more or pays doctors better than they are getting paid in their own country. Is that not by design? You see, is that not by design? Because you find out that we are going to school, getting well educated through a bad economic situation. We are getting educated only to come out of our educational system and not try to contribute to creating a better economy for us, but to travel and go create and enjoy an already established, seemingly better economy. You see, so you find out that immigration is not really ours. And of course, we're not going to just end at finding out, what is really ours and what is not really ours. Is what are we going to do about our own? Okay, so I'll just round up with the last one, which is innovation. And innovation borders along the lines of inventing things, creating new things. So, for example, now, somebody who loves to drive the Mercedes will be saying he's waiting for 2025 version. Some other, if you're a richer African, you say in 2025 you want to drive 2026. Now the point is, who is driving that innovation in the car industry, in housing, in the building industry? Africans trying to take building of our homes to the next level? Or are we just waiting for some other Western country to develop a new kind of paint before you can start, and then you'll be the first person to import that paint into Africa and start painting your homes with it? Okay, so the point is, we need to take charge of innovation as well. Manufacturing things, first of all, it starts from manufacturing things. Then you're now developing on the design of these products. You're developing on the style and the efficiency of these products. This is what drives innovation. For example, the way we build our homes. You see, we say that the civilization we got from the Westerners is what has led us to building our homes with cement and sand, and now we have a harder block than the mud that our ancestors used to build. Now the same Westerners are going back to using mud to build, and they're talking about how using mud to build homes is the future of architecture and building. So now you find out that it is now the West that is about to drive the future of the innovation in terms of building with mud. And mud has been what Africans have been using to build for hundreds of years. So what's the problem? What's the problem with innovating ours? What's the problem with upholding that which is ours? So yeah, I'm going to round up the recorded session for this conversation and then open up the space on TikTok. So yeah, for those who'll be watching the recorded session, do leave your comments in the comment section and keep it respectful. I'd like you to tell me, what do you think we should do about what is ours, about our language, about our tradition, about our culture, about our sense of fashion? How can we start reclaiming these things and making them more indigenous? Thank you.